Caroline in Lancashire. Hiya.
Hi, Jeremy.
Where does this go for the King, do you think?
Well, the question, what should the King do next? I think the King, along with the government, should make a public announcement that they are abolishing monarchy once and for all. We've had centuries and centuries of this. This Andrew thing is just another page in the history of atrocities committed by certain members of the royal family throughout history. And James is wrong when he says to Yasmin there are far more important things to consider, because things that need addressing today have gone on throughout history and had connections with royalty, like slavery. The Duchies were set up, by the way, to raise funds for our armies and our civil service. And we're talking present day about raising our 5% GDP towards our armed forces. Well, if the Duchies were returned back to the Treasury, that would help to go. And
well, you get a one-off. You get one-off money from it. Yeah. I don't know.
And continually, but I mean, it's an outdated concept now.
Well, it certainly feels dated.
They no longer rule.
Yeah. James? You're the royalist today.
I'm now the royalist today, yeah. Hi, Caroline, how are you? I'm sure I am wrong about lots of things in life, but I would say one thing again, one of the callers made a very good point, around Brexit and other bits, we were promised things would be better. I don't think without the details and the facts, anyone has any idea. I know Yasmin's recommended this documentary about the finances and bits and pieces, but I do not think the panacea to our problems in this country is getting rid of the royal family and suddenly life's going to be much better.
Well, you're bound to say that, aren't you? You're bound to say that. You're friends with them. I'm sure they're nice people individually, but as a concept, it is outdated. It's just parasitical now.
Well, hang on. Caroline, let's just think about this.
Going to be replaced.
Caroline, let's... Hang on.
With AI. Why can't we have an AI monarchy? That wouldn't
we can. Of course we can do that. And then we could be an international joke. That's fine, but maybe we are already. But when you just think about Buckingham... Just think about Buckingham Palace.
One more thing I'd like to just say,
Caroline, just listen for a second. Buckingham Palace has got 775 rooms. Let's put it on the market.
That's just one house. There's many, many other houses that they own.
And you've got to let me finish the sentence, So it's got 775 rooms. Let's put it on the market, and then we see who buys it. And I reckon it's going to be UAE. It'll be the royal family in Bahrain.
No, I'll tell you a better solution. Turn it into a house for homeless Britons. The number of people homeless in the last...
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sussex Insights. Today, we are diving into a conversation that has been quietly building for years, but is now erupting into the mainstream in a way we simply cannot ignore. Recently, during a discussion on The Jeremy Vine Show, hosted by Jeremy Vine, a caller named Caroline said something that many people whisper in private but rarely state openly on national television. The monarchy should be abolished. Not trimmed, not rebranded, not given a glossy modernisation campaign. Abolished. Now, whether you agree with her or not, what matters is that this argument was not emotional or chaotic. It was structured. It referenced history, finances, repeated scandals, and a growing frustration among ordinary citizens who are constantly told to tighten their belts while watching royal controversies unfold in cycles that feel eerily repetitive. And at the centre of this renewed scrutiny is Prince Andrew. Andrew stepped back from royal duties after his association with Jeffrey Epstein triggered global outrage and serious legal consequences. He has denied wrongdoing. Yet the reputational damage to himself and to the wider institution has been profound and long-lasting. Caroline's argument framed Andrew's situation not as an isolated scandal, but as part of a pattern in which power wrapped in tradition can appear insulated from the type of scrutiny that elected officials routinely face. Her point was not about one man alone. It was about structure. And this is where the conversation intersects powerfully with the story of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Because when we talk about accountability, fairness and institutional protection, Harry's long-standing concerns suddenly feel less like family drama and more like warnings. let's talk about finances, because this is where emotions meet hard numbers. The Duchy of Lancaster provides private income to the monarch. The Duchy of Cornwall provides income to the heir to the throne. These are not decorative relics. They are active commercial portfolios generating tens of millions annually from land, agriculture, housing, and commercial leases. Investigations have highlighted that the duchies have charged rent to public institutions, including NHS facilities and even military units. Defenders argue that this is standard practice for any large estate. Critics argue that if these estates are constitutionally intertwined with the state, then perhaps profits should flow directly to the public treasury. Then there's the sovereign grant, calculated as a percentage of profits from the Crown estate. The Crown estate generates substantial revenue for the Treasury, particularly through offshore wind developments. A portion is then returned to fund official royal duties. On paper, this structure is constitutional, but perception often outweighs technical legality. In an era of rising living costs, underfunded councils and strained public services, even justified funding models can feel jarring. When the percentage temporarily increases to fund major renovations like the long-term refurbishment of Buckingham Palace, public discomfort intensifies. During that same television discussion, Jeremy Vine joked about selling Buckingham Palace to foreign buyers. Caroline countered with a symbolic proposal. What if royal properties were used to house homeless citizens? Logistically complex? Yes. Legally improbable? Almost certainly. But symbolism matters. When homelessness rises and food bank usage increases, palaces with hundreds of rooms appear disconnected from daily hardship. Even if conversion is unrealistic, the imagery forces uncomfortable questions about space, wealth, and priorities. And this is where the monarchy debate becomes less about architecture and more about morality. But the conversation does not stop at finances. It reaches into history. Britain's monarchy was intertwined with empire and the transatlantic slave trade. The Royal African Company transported enslaved Africans under royal charter. Wealth generated during imperial expansion shaped the broader economic landscape in which royal estates expanded. Modern monarchs did not create that system, but the institution's prestige developed within it. King Charles III has expressed sorrow over the legacy of slavery and opened archives for research. Yet debates over apologies and reparations continue, especially in Caribbean nations reconsidering constitutional ties to the Crown. Now, let's talk about Meghan. When Meghan Markle, a biracial American woman, married into the royal family, many saw a symbolic turning point, a modernizing moment, a bridge between tradition and multicultural Britain. Instead, what followed was relentless scrutiny. Headlines analysed everything from avocado toast to how she held her baby bump. Comparisons were drawn between Meghan and other royals for identical behaviours, but the tone often differed dramatically. During the explosive interview with Oprah Winfrey, Meghan revealed that conversations had taken place within the institution about how dark her son's skin might be. That disclosure ignited a global reckoning about race bias and institutional culture. It is impossible to separate the monarchy debate from how Meghan was treated. For many observers, her experience exposed the tension between a centuries-old institution and a multicultural 21st century society. Harry later spoke about fearing history repeating itself, referencing the intense media pressure faced by his mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. And whether you interpret their departure as abandonment or self-preservation, One thing is undeniable. It revealed fractures inside palace walls. When Harry and Meghan stepped back in 2020, tabloids branded it Megxit. But framing it as vanity ignores the context they described: relentless media intrusion, lack of institutional protection, and mental health strain. Harry's memoir, Spare, reignited debate when he contrasted his loss of state-funded security with Andrew's continued protection, despite scandal. He wrote about fairness, not revenge, not bitterness. Fairness. If one family member accused of serious misconduct retains security while another who speaks openly about institutional concerns loses it, people naturally question consistency. And now, with renewed scrutiny around Andrew and reports of possible legislative discussions regarding his position in the line of succession, those earlier concerns feel less theoretical. Public opinion reflects generational shifts. Younger Britons are more open to Republican ideas than older demographics. The monarchy still commands loyalty during ceremonial moments, but younger audiences increasingly ask what purpose hereditary leadership serves in a democratic society. Digital culture accelerates this divide. On social media, royal events are often framed through satire rather than reverence. Viral commentary travels faster than palace press releases. Classrooms and universities engage more openly with Britain's imperial past. This does not mean abolition is imminent, but it signals cultural transformation. Institutions survive when they adapt convincingly to society's values. If younger generations increasingly view hereditary privilege as incompatible with democracy, pressure for reform will grow. Reform may suffice. Abolition may remain a minority position. But the debate itself is no longer fringe. And this is where Harry and Meghan's story functions as a lens. In the United States, their departure resonated with themes of autonomy and mental health. In Britain, it collided with loyalty to tradition. But globally, it sparked conversation. Conversation about media ethics, about race, about mental health, about institutional protection, about whether tradition should shield individuals from accountability. Caroline's call on national television was brief, but it symbolized something larger. Are centuries-old structures beyond question? Or should they be reassessed in light of modern ethics and economics? Andrew's scandal adds a moral and legal dimension. Meghan's treatment adds a racial and cultural dimension. Harry's warnings add a structural dimension. Together, they create a perfect storm of scrutiny. And here's what stands out most. Transparency is no longer politely requested. It is demanded. Loyalty is no longer automatic. It is conditional. Deference is no longer assumed. It is debated. For Harry, this moment is less about triumph and more about validation. He spoke about internal problems. He spoke about uneven protection. He spoke about media toxicity. Now, the public is asking similar questions. That does not mean every criticism of the monarchy is fair, nor does it mean abolition is inevitable. But it does mean the institution faces a generational crossroads. The debate is no longer confined to academic circles or activist groups. It is on mainstream television. It is trending online. It is part of dinner-table conversation. Ultimately, this is about identity. What kind of nation does Britain want to be in the 21st century? Can inherited authority comfortably coexist with democratic values? Does symbolism justify cost? Does tradition outweigh reform? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary ones. Harry and Meghan stepped away and built their own path, continuing charitable work, launching media ventures, and speaking openly about mental health. Whether admired or criticised, they demonstrated that independence from the institution is possible. And that possibility alone changes the conversation. As this story continues to unfold with Andrew's legal issues, financial scrutiny of royal estates and growing Republican discourse, one thing is certain. Public scrutiny of the monarchy has entered a new era, and conversations like Caroline's are just the beginning. If you found this deep dive meaningful, make sure you subscribe to the Sussex Insights so you do not miss future discussions. Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments because this conversation belongs to all of us. The debate is not ending. In many ways, it is only just beginning.